Thomas and Daisy are good friends who love picking up passengers. They even told stories about the past of how they came to the island of Sodor. "Daisy," said Thomas, "how did you end up coming to the island of Sodor?" "Well, Thomas," said Daisy, "I was introduced by Sir Topham Hatt, then to Percy and Toby. After they felt all drowsy next morning, I had to leave the shed and back to my station. That explains why I came to the island of Sodor. But the only thing that only gets me is the milk, which I really didn't like." "You see, Thomas," said Daisy, "it's always important to be a highly sprung diesel when you're picking up your passengers." Thomas felt a little confused. But then Daisy noticed that Thomas had crashed into the station master's house, who was having breakfast. "Goodness me," said Daisy. "I hope you didn't anger the station master." "Never mind all of that," said Thomas. "It's always good to be a really useful engine." "Indeed," said Daisy. Then Sir Topham Hatt interrupted their conversation. He had important news. "Please do your best to avoid any disturbance. This will cause any confusion and delay," said Sir Topham Hatt. "What does that mean?" asked Daisy. "That means that Diesel is devious, of course," said Thomas crossly. And he was. Diesel was very rude to the engines. "Oh look, Stinky Steamies in a boiled shed," boiled Diesel. The engines glared. "Don't look at me like you got no sense, but Sir Topham Hatt should scrap you Stinky Steamies and get Diesels like me. No bother, no waiting. They have to fuss around for hours until you're ready." The engines were furious. Next day, they held an indignation meeting around the shed. "Disgraceful! Disgusting! Despicable! To say such things to us," cried Donald and Douglas, "is to teach them a lesson we be one. But how do we do it?" Their chance came sooner than expected. Diesel was purring comfortably. An inspector was watching the footer making final adjustments. The wind tugged the inspector's hat. Diesel was ready. "Look at me, Thomas and Daisy. Now I'll show you something." He rolled proudly towards the shunter's truck. Then it happened. Shaking and sputtering, Diesel had stopped. Later, Thomas pushed Diesel back to the shed. Diesel had seethed with furious. Later, Sir Topham Hatt looked directly at him. "I shall deal with you later," he said. Sir Topham Hatt then spoke to Thomas and Daisy. "Thomas and Daisy, I would like you to go to the station to collect your passengers," ordered Sir Topham Hatt. "Yes, sir," said the two engines. When Sir Topham Hatt had to deal with Diesel, Thomas and Daisy set off to the station to collect their passengers. Just then, Molly arrived. "You two are early," said Molly. "What are you doing?" "Sir Topham Hatt is letting me and Thomas pick up our passengers at the station," said Daisy. "It's for that show-off Diesel." "Serves him right for saying that he's out of devious deeds," said Molly, and she puffed away. When Daisy and Thomas got back from picking up their passengers, Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to Diesel. "I'm very disappointed in you, Diesel," he said firmly. You wanted to show yourself that you wanted to call the engine Stinky Steamies. This is not how we treat our engines, said Sir Topham Hatt. And now you have caused confusion and delay. So, you will be asked to leave this railway, he said firmly. Yes, sir, he said. Daisy and Thomas were pleased to see him go. Never come back, they yelled. Sir Topham Hatt then spoke to Thomas and Daisy. It seems that I owe you two an apology, he said firmly. But I see you picked up your passengers right on time, and I'm pleased with you, he said. Yes, we did, sir, said Daisy. As a reward for next morning, I will let you pick up your passengers again, said Sir Topham Hatt. Thomas and Daisy beamed. When Thomas got back to the station with his coaches Annie and Clarabelle, he was feeling very happy. And of course, Daisy was feeling happy too. You know, said Thomas, even if we're really useful, we always have to pick up our passengers, even when Sir Topham Hatt asks us to. Exactly, said Daisy. Even though Annie and Clarabelle are still good coaches, you're still a good friend to me, Thomas. And you've been a good friend to me, Daisy, said Thomas. No matter how much useful you are, you can always be useful whenever you like. Thomas and Daisy soon let out a happy ending whistle.
Roblox, what will you build?